Hey everybody, Scoutcrafter here again. What a week it's been. I hope you enjoyed your last week. Today we're going to start off with a box of great items sent to me by a good friend of the show by the name of Cecil Turnipseed. What a fantastic name, isn't it? From Alabama. Great guy. Him and his wife, Nicky. Cecil has a huge collection of tools. Look at his shop here. Tons of stuff you can see that he's had for a long time. He's like me, he's outgrown his shop. We can all do for a bigger shop, but Cecil sent his stuff over, and all right, let's get started. I want to show you the cool stuff Cecil sent over. Okay, first off, let's take a look at some of the writing implements that Cecil sent. He sent some of these. Now I went through this. This is this Milwaukee Inksol, nice marker, enjoy it, nice tip, but also Hart. And Hart is a company, Home Depot usually sells, or here in the States, it's Home Depot or Lowe's sells a lot of Harts. But look at the tip on this one. What a nice tip that is, huh? And it's called their sharp tip. So these markers are really nice. And of course, a nice assortment of carpenter's pencils. Now, the key with carpenter's pencils is to know how to sharpen them. And here's one he pre-sharpened. Look at, that's a nice, strong tip that you could have out in the field all day. It'll last you, and it won't break when you drop it. So the key to a good carpenter's pencil is know how to sharpen it. But one other thing he sent was this. Look at this cool little, this is a pen, all right? I guess it's almost like a giveaway. It's from Northern Tool and Equipment, okay? But look, it's a regular ballpoint pen, right? But check this out. It's got a little caliper on this side, and this one here is accurate. I thought it was just like, you know, kind of a goof. It's actually very accurate. So you could use this to measure centimeters. Isn't that cool? Next up, a nice assortment of cable ties, which, come on, we all kind of saved them, but these are great, especially the ones that are super flexible and stuff, the good brand ones. And a lot, these Rabbits. Now, he sent two different types. Now, as you know from following the channel, I'm big into extension cords. I make a lot of extension cords. I must have 20, but I use a lot of them often. And I made a bunch of these up whenever I find a cord, or a vacuum cleaner cord. I cut the cord, put an end on it, and now I have something to run different lights or whatever. Now, these are perfect for that. Like here, these are called Rabbits, and they're Velcro, you know, they wrap around the cord. You can hang them up with a nice ring. Excellent, right? But this one here, this is good for not only extension cords, but for rope too. This is called the Cable Cuff Pro. And how this works is you push this down. It's just like a handcuff, more or less. Put your extension cord in, you lock it in, and Bob's your uncle. Now, if you want to hang it up, it's got a little D-ring here that you could just pull out, and you could hang it by the D-ring. But very interesting, and especially when you got a lot of cords like me that you got to keep entangled. That's really cool. Next up, look at this great headlight here. This is great for the poor man's flea market, huh? This is super bright, has 3 different lights that you want. But you know, you'd be surprised how many can hunters there are that they think I'm competing with them. I'm not picking up cans. I'm looking for good stuff, you know, that can be stored. But they think that I'm out there looking for cans, and they give me the side eye, you know. But great thing, they wear these at night. They wear the big ones like this. These here, you know what that is? Take a second, think about it. That is for carrying large pieces of wood or something, and the teeth grips into here. You can see, like if you're carrying paneling or something like that. I'll show you. Now, how these work is they got teeth on the inside and outside. So if you're carrying lumber, or if you're carrying there's 3 of them here. When you hook onto this like this, and you pull up on one side, it locks in. So you could carry it at your side without having to try and grip the lumber. These things really come in handy. A bunch of interesting miscellaneous items. Telescopic magnet we can all use. You know what this is? A barrel spring. For how many times do we lose these or don't have it for your clippers or your garden shears? Look at this. Salesman sample. Look at that. Isn't that cute? It's a little guy. And it says, to cement our friendship, Plains Concrete and Materials Company Incorporated, Ready Mix Concrete. And that's out of Texas. That's pretty interesting, huh? I love these little salesman sample stuff. And look at this. Have you ever seen one of these before? Now, a lot of you would say, well, it's a regular shop brush and stuff, but there is a special use for that. And you could tell by the bristles on here, okay? It's not quite horsehair, but it's a very, once I tell you, you'll know exactly. And here it is. You see that? This is a billiards table brush for cleaning off the felt of the pool table. Isn't that nice? Look at that. Look at that great label. You know, usually you want to peel the label out. This is one of them labels you just love, you know. It's just a foil kind of label. It's got the figure out. They also make bowling supplies, things like that. Very interesting. Sauna Wehelm Company. Wehelm and Billiard. Now we're getting into the meat and potatoes. Look at this. Japan, made in Japan. This must be a heavy powder coat on here. Nice finish on here. These had, interestingly enough, and I don't know if that broke off in transit or whatever, but these had these pliers, slip joint, very nicely made, peened over, and we're going to be talking about that more in a minute. They had these nylon jaws that would screw in, and I'm sure you could get replaceable jaws, which I'm going to look into. They had regular jaws if you didn't want them, but they also had the screw-in type. What a nice pair of pliers these are, nice grips. And again, made in Japan, so these are good quality. Next up, who doesn't like a good knife? And here's a nice Sheffield, okay? Look at this. It's got nice, this is called a hollow ground, both sides. Look at that blade, right? Very, very sharp. Sharper than I like to keep them. This is kind of, I will cut myself. And a nice rubber grip with a full tang steel, so it really has a nice grip. And I got big hands, so this is a nice knife, huh? Next up, I guess Cecil, like all of us, loves screwdrivers, and we have a nice assortment. Now, the reason you need more than one screwdriver, I've gone through this before, is because a lot of times you will have something that needs a specific size tip, you know? And it's always nice to have screwdrivers that you can grind down to make that custom tip. Like, for example, if it's too thin here, you could take it back a little bit to here, and it'll thicken up the edge, you know, for whatever you want to use it for. So these, plus a couple chisels, and these. And they're a beautiful assortment here of all different types. I love acetate handles. And especially, like I said, when you can have all these different tips, a lot of times you'll have to pick in. This is my first Robinson. Look at this beautiful Ace Robinson #2. It's a shame that here in the States, we never really, you know, got into Robinson fasteners because they're so good. But Torx, you know, once Torx came in, that's what pretty much everybody uses now. But the square drive was such a great idea, and if we were so close to adapting that. Instead, we get that stupid Phillips junk. I hate Phillips. Stanley 100 plus. Stanley 100 plus. If you're not familiar with Stanley 100s, you have to have them. Look at that tip. Beautiful tip. And these two Stanleys, I can't tell you how heavy these things are. These are considered demolition screwdrivers. They have the steel cap, the rubberized grip up here. They're heavy duty, and they're meant to bang on. If you have to bang on the back of a screwdriver to maybe loosen up, this will do it. And nice heavy duty carbonized tips, but these are really heavy. Beautiful screwdriver. Aren't these nice? Next up, Irwin extending driver screwdriver. Have you ever seen one of these before? Let's take it out of the package and see what this is. It looks beautiful. Okay, I know you think I'm a fan of red, which I do. I'm a huge fan of red, but I also like green, and I'm a sucker for anything cobalt blue. It's got to be cobalt blue like that. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, let's take a look at what it is here. Rubberized grip, feels really grippy in the hand. And it extends. The tips are very nice. This is hollow ground, you could see there. That is 10 times better than just a V grind, the hollow grind. And it comes with 4 different tips, 3 Phillips, and another hollow grind, smaller one. Let's see how it works. To unlock it, you can see all you do is push this down here, and this extends. Okay, and when it has a lock in, listen. There you go. And when it locks in, there's no rattle. No rattle in the tips, which that's one thing I never liked about a lot of tips. When you put them in, sometimes they still rattle. This is no rattle whatsoever. It extends to, that's pretty wide, right? That's a pretty wide extension if you did need it. And again, you have all that adjustable up and down to where you want to put it. It'll even stop in between, but it really locks in on those grooves. Interesting, very interesting, nice, not heavy, something you would carry with you. Tips are magnetic, very, very interesting. The model number on this one here, you could see 1948779. I don't see a country of origin, but I'm sure Irwin, everything they make usually is from China. But it has a nice feel to it, real nice feel. Irwin extendable. Okay, I've been saving this to last. It's my favorite item that he sent over. This is a Black & Decker 85th anniversary. You can see down here, 85th anniversary, which would put it around 2005, which means this is about 20 years old. Okay, and what this is, it's, you see the home utility here? Let me see if I can. Can you see home utility? Black & Decker, this is a whole retro look that they went for back in 2005. This is a cordless. Let's open it up. I'm excited. I've seen this online, but I've never seen one in person. Okay, here we go. Look, it's got a metal plate down here. Let's do our unboxing, so to speak. I'm pretty excited. I've seen these online. I've never seen what one looks like in person, okay? We have a owner's manual here, pretty thick. All right. And here we go. Look at that. Look at that. It's strapped down here. Oh, wow. This is aluminum. This is not plastic. This is really aluminum. And holy cow. Look at that. Die-cast aluminum. Let's, I'm sure the battery doesn't, you know, these batteries weren't known to hold a charge over a long period of time, but let's plug it in and look, it's got a cap over it. Let's see what happens here. Maybe, you never know. Sometimes there's a residual charge. Look at that. Oh, and it's got the, obviously, here. This is a throwback, huh? This is early days. Remember, we've come a long way in the last 20 years with cordless tools, but this was, they were trying to do something that would have a retro feel. Look at that. That's a tag, a metal tag on there. You see that Black & Decker here. I guess that was the designer here. It says Black & Decker Jr. That's probably the president. Battery level. Let's see what the battery level. Oh, we got 2 bars. Can you see that? 2 bars on the battery level. That's just fantastic. Oh my God, look at that. If it's level, what is it? A little LED to show if it's level? Let's see if that works. Okay, look at that. You see this little LED there? Now watch what happens. When you pull the trigger just a little bit, it engages that LED, right? And if you move it, that's level. Off level, level, off level. Wow. That is really interesting. They got a high torque setting, high speed. It's got that same look of those old Black & Decker. It was the same exact design here. There's the specs. Can you see that? And it's got here, it's got the screw that here you could put the screw bitters in here. It's got a metal tab that holds it down. You can see here. It's, this is really nice. This is just, I guess I'm a little excited, right? So what do you think of that Black & Decker drill? That comes from a time when they were just coming out. Remember, it's 20 years ago already. We've come a long way with cordless tools, tremendous way, but that was the early days. That's just something. Black & Decker threw that out there, seeing what would, if anybody would buy. I've never seen one in person. Very cool. Cecil, Nicky, thank you so much for that. We got a couple of other things to talk about today. Let's get with that right now. Okay, next up. On last episode, we redid a couple of Ed's tools that Ed sent in, and one of them was his dad's nippers. These are Kronk, and you can see here it says Kronk on there. And what we did was we had to take out the the rivet there, Makeover rivet. And you know, a good friend of the show, Mohammed from Indonesia, for a long time, good friend of the show, and he said, you know, I would like to see how exactly you made that, because he wanted to do a couple of his tools like that. And I did pass over it kind of quickly, and I want to show you, we didn't just take the bolt and put it on. You know, you have to reduce the profile, or else it'll stick out and look all wonky. You want it to look somewhat normal, you know. And I'm going to show you how exactly we got this nice contour and curve over the top of here, and how we got this to look decent. Okay, so let me show you. We're going to make one up real quick. Now, this tool here I thought would make a good example. This tool was sent in by a good friend of the show by the name of Jimmy Campanella. Jimmy and his wife Lisa, good friends of the show for a long time, and we meet up with Jimmy. In fact, coming up on May 3rd is Zagray's show. What a great show that is. That's in Connecticut. Great show. But Jimmy sent these in, and I went through a bunch of his tools. This was the only one that was kind of wobbly. This is a kind of an end nippers. This was used a lot on farms and things like that for pulling out and prying things off. You can see here, it's got a nice rivet. The problem is, you hear that? There's a little bit of a rattle there. And when you have a little bit of a rattle, it throws off the edge when you move it back and forth here. You can see, and again, these are meant, farmers would use these. This one here's got a little bend in the middle. And so let's see, and you can see it was tried, attempted. Whenever you see peening like that, it looks like somebody attempted to hit it down. Normally these rivets are done hot riveted. You put the rivet in hot, and they have a special domed shaped tool, which is a tool with a dome on the end of it, which when you bang it in, it'll leave a nice appearance. This wasn't domed, used the dome shaped tool. This was just a regular hammer that was used. And you can reheat it and try and hammer it down again and tighten it up. But since we're doing this, let's take it apart. These are kind of, you never see these tools ever. You'll never see a tool like this restored other than this channel, because they're kind of blacksmith tools. They're made, blacksmith tools are always kind of primitive looking. You know, they never go that extra step. There is one guy I follow overseas. I don't know where he is, in the Netherlands or something. This guy, he is a blacksmith, and he takes it from here and then he machines it, and which is what Klein started off doing. That's why Klein became so popular. But you can see here we have, you know, the edge is, again, blacksmith tools. They're made for the farm and stuff. A lot of times they would just bang that. What do you say? Let's give it a shot. Let's drill that out. The first step we're going to do is take our center drill and drill somewhat in the center of that, the one that's been mashed down. And we'll just try and make a little divot there. Go. Next up, we have a wider drill here, and that's just to open up that area, and that'll expose where the rivet is. Now, one thing that's important to remember is you see my table height. I have the drill bit only about a ½ inch or less above the actual work that I'm doing. There's no reason to have your quill travel down too far, okay? You just want to, just a short amount of space. Always use your table to your advantage, okay? Don't have it where you have to feed 3 inches down on the quill, because it's less accurate. The quill has more, you know, movement the further down it goes. So just leave it as close as you can to being seated at the top, and just have that small area. So let's see if we can't drill that out very softly, slowly, until we see a remnants of the top spin off. Okay, now you see what we did here. We drilled down. Okay, now you could see that on that lower edge there, you could see we don't want to drill into this piece here. We just want to drill that rivet out. Now, when you get to this point here, you can see how very little rim of the rivet is left. We're going to take a chisel, and we're going to chisel off the edge that we just drilled. That edge right there. We're going to chisel that off. Okay, now we just chiseled that little ring off there, and there we go. Came apart. Now we just got to knock this out of here. Sometimes Sometimes if you drill a hole in the middle, it'll help the outer ring collapse if it's too tough to knock out because it's been there for a while. Okay, we have the rivet out. Don't be in a rush to try and get that rivet out because I've done it before and I've drilled into this, you know, and you don't want to do it. Now you can see here, this had some peens here where they tried to peen it over so it wouldn't move, but there's our holes here. Now this is hardened. You don't want to have to drill this out, so you want to find a fastener or a bolt that'll fit securely in there. Let's talk about that. Now, the hardest part about finding a rivet that'll fit here is finding, this is called the shoulder here of the bolt. And you see, this is not threaded. Now, this is the part you want. You don't want threading go all the way up to the top, because if you have threading in the middle there, it'll kind of wear in, and it's not a good... You want something that's round and smooth. So look for a bolt that has a bit of a shoulder on it, and one that fits in there without play. See that play? That's unacceptable. So let's keep searching until we find a bolt that has A, a shoulder, and B, no play. Okay, we went into our batch of bolts. We found a bolt that fit very nice. It's a 3/8 inch diameter by 16 threads per inch. Now you could say, John, there's a problem. Problem is the threads end here. That's always a problem. Now, if you can get a shorter bolt, and or if you live in the UK, you give Reggie on the road, you say, Reggie, I need a... He's got whatever you need. Just give him a call. He'll be glad to help you out. But in this case, we're going to have to run these threads down to here. So we'll mark off with a marker where this, and we'll run it down about 1/8 of an inch deeper than where we make the mark, right here. Now you can see that's a good size, and it takes a little bit of time, but that's where we're going. Okay, here we go. We fabricated this down to here. We threaded down here. You could save yourself a ton of work if you could just get a bolt to start off like this, but I didn't have one on hand, or I didn't want to fish it out. It's just, for me, it's easy to do this. So you can see here, that thickness here, okay, where the smooth part is, and only the threads will extend out past it. So now what we're going to do, we're going to clean up and sharpen the edges of here like we did, and also we have a bend here that we're going to take care of. We got a little bend there, and you see the bottom here looks like it's you know, we can do some finish work on that. The screwdriver, let's have some fun with that. Okay, we cleaned everything up with the flap sander. We were able to get the jaws sharpened and aligned. I made these into an anvil cutter, which means one side is sharp, one side is flat. This side here is flat, this side here is somewhat sharp, and that will do the job in cutting, you know. That'll cut nicely because one side is sharp, one side. So, but I don't think these were really made more for cutting as they were for prying and whatnot. Now we got to work on the rivet, and also clean up. This is the rough grind, you know. We'll make that nicer. And I cut off 1/2 an inch of the screwdriver because it was all wonky, and we'll fix that. And now it's some more even than it was. There is a name on it. It's V and B, I believe it was the stamping on here. But what we're going to do now, before we take it to the belt sander and clean everything up, we have to address that rivet. Now, remember I was telling you, with this rivet here, there's 2 ways you could do it. You could grind it, because you want this to be about half the thickness as it is now, both of these. Now, they actually sell half nuts, okay? This is the type of nuts that I have for this thread. This is 3/8 by 16. There's different ones. It doesn't matter. You're going to have to cut it in half, whichever you use. Now, this one's a little bit bigger than this one. This one has a smaller profile, but we will have to cut that in half. Now, you want the threads to come out about 1/8 of an inch past the cut thread so that you can peen it over, okay? So this is all going to be gone. So let me show you how. First we'll take this apart, and we'll work on this side. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to screw our nut with a thick washer. That's how much overhang we want so we could peen over. But we're going to screw our nut onto the wrench here, tighten it up, and then we're going to take a hacksaw and cut this right down. Remember, we want a half nut. We're going to cut it right down the middle here, and that'll give us enough room. Okay, we cut this off with a hacksaw. You could break it off with your finger if you're real strong. And now you see we have a half nut, just what we want. So now what we're going to do is we're going to unscrew this. That's going to be flipped over because it's got that bevel on this, the flat side. And that'll leave this much overhanging. Let me show you. Okay, we reversed it. Now you see what we have here? A thin nut there, not too protruding. This, you'll take a file. We'll file this down just a little bit and peen it over to fill it in. And then we'll take the 1-inch belt sander and make it nice and smooth. That'll come out nice. Now for this side, all we got to do is take that to the belt sander. We got to take this down to about half and round it over. I'll show you how we do that. Using a vice grip, we're going to grip the bolt in there tightly, and we're just going to rock it in a circular motion to try and get a curvature on the top face of that bolt. Okay, here we go. You can see now we took down about quite a bit of it. You know, it's a thinner bolt now. Now to get this curvature here, if you don't have that effect on or that technique on the belt sander, you could use the regular 1x30 or whatever belt sander you have, or you could do it with a file. I'm going to show you here with the 1x30 how we're going to dress this up. That's just a rough grind. Now here we are at the 1x30 belt sander. You can see I'm using my fingers, so that means I'm not pushing a lot of pressure to build up heat. And I also have water nearby to dunk it. Another way you could do it is with the drill. Now here I chucked it in the drill, and I'm using a coarse belt, and you can see that makes quick work of it, and then go right to a fine belt, and with the fine belt that'll polish it up pretty smooth for your next step. Our last step is to lubricate everything with some lithium grease, reinsert the new rivet, and peen it over. Now, you know my favorite part. Remember what this tool looked like before we started. And we're calling this project done. You know, I believe this is the only Farrier tool that has ever been restored on YouTube. And let's take a look at what we did here. And the reason I did it, it's just because we want to show that rivet, start to finish, how it's done. You can see here, that's a nice looking, fastener for this. And you can see on here, peened it over. Then we just gave it a quick sanding and polishing. So it really enhances the tool, doesn't it? From back to front, what we did, changed the profile of this, made it into a very usable screwdriver, shortened it a little bit. This is the nail puller, fixed that up. The handle was all bumpy and crooked, and now they're straight and nice, right? The cutters, fixed the cutters here. They work the way they should. Now again, I don't use this tool, so I don't know how sharp they like it, but you see here we did the sides. Let's check out the sharpness here. Now we did the zip tie before, cut through the zip tie, and that's always a good test of the sharpness of something, and that did. But can it cut through stranded wire here? This is always a really hard test for any nippers, and you can see here it does make it through. Not as snappy as the Crunks, but it does make it through stranded wire. So I would say that this is a pass on here, and this is going to be a showpiece. Who uses these? I'm not a horseshoer or a farrier, right? But interesting tool. Jimmy, thanks for that. Really interesting. Okay, so there we go. Mohammed, I hope that answers your question. Anybody else that had a question about those rivets? That's a full start to finish, how we do it. Also, a couple dates coming up. We have tomorrow at the Long Island Tool Meet out in Smithtown at the Frank Brush Barn. We will have our tool meet from 5 to 7. If anybody's in the area, we'll see you out there. May 3rd coming up, is Zagre. That's always looking forward to that. That's always a great show. Other things, I know, like I said, I'm trying to get a lot of things done around here, but we have Jimmy, my good friend Jim from Jim's Tools. Jim's Tools. Anyway, Jimmy, we all know Jimmy. Most of us here from the channel for a long time, but if you're new to the channel, go check out Jim's Tools, because Jim has been making up for the days that I'm off by putting out videos on Monday, Wednesday. There's great restorations. Fantastic guy. Go check him out. Special thanks to Cecil and Nicky for the great package, and that Black & Decker drill just blew me away. That's like a moment in time. That was something that was put out. They'll never do it again. That was just terrific. Enjoy that. and everything else. And also special thanks to Jimmy and Lisa for the those tongs we did, those farrier tongs, which I'm looking now. I don't see a mule or horse around, but I will get to use them sooner or later. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you have a great day. We'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye now.